To another edition, an episode of Chess Chat, the 175th episode of Chess Chat, brought to you live from Workers Credit Union Studio at Fitchburg Access Television. I am your host, George Meridanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club, the second oldest chess club in Massachusetts, meets every Wednesday evening from 6:30 to 10:30 in rooms 142 and 143 of the McKay Complex at the university. And with me once again for this episode of Chess Chat is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg, recipient of FATV's prestigious Boulder Award. He's assisted in the control room by fellow resident and longtime Wachusett Chess Club member, Brian Bigelow. And sitting across from me is a special person, a person who is appearing for the second time on Chess Chat, is our co-host, our substitute co-host, and that's Mike Misso of Brookline, New Hampshire. Hello, Mike.
Hey, George. How are you?
I'm doing very fine, Mike, and
Good.
I thank you for subbing for my regular co-host, Dave Kuchar.
No problem. Glad it worked out.
Okay. Again, I welcome you. And again, I want to tell our Chess Chat fans that you are a valuable asset of the Wachusett Chess Club. That's because you are our chief tournament director. You direct all the tournaments, all the rated tournaments that we do at the Wachusett Chess Club. And I really appreciate the work you do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for mentioning it. I'm happy to do it.
Okay. And again, and the results, the weekly results, now you're able to send those results to our webmaster who was able to post week by week the results based on your submissions to the website. So again, thank you for what you do as the club. Well, you know, Mike, exactly 1 week ago, we actually had an anniversary. It was actually the 150th anniversary of the birth of probably one of the greatest chess players this country's ever seen, Harry Nelson Pillsbury. He was born December 5th, 1872 in Somerville, Massachusetts. So he's a Massachusetts-born player, the first great Massachusetts player. And again, we celebrate his 150th birthday last week. And he really made his mark in the chess world. Here is a photo of Pillsbury, born in was born in Somerville, Massachusetts. And the reason he studied, why did he study chess? Why did he take up chess? Well, it so happened that about 2 weeks before his 16th birthday, his mother passed away. And this death of his mother made him so distraught. I mean, the grief was great on his part. And family members said to him, you know, Harry, I said, you've got to take your mind off the loss of your mother. I mean, why don't you take up chess? Why don't you actually, maybe it'll ease the loss of your mother's death. And he followed their advice and actually found somebody he was working with who actually lived in Somerville, who taught him how to play chess. And it sparked his interest in chess. And he joined a club in Boston at the time. It was called the Deschapelles Club. It was a group of grown Bostonians who met together, and they welcomed a young player, a young teenager. I think he joined the club when he was 18 years old. But again, he made his mark in the chess world in 1895 when he went over to England, Hastings, England. It was August of 1895. And he won a tournament, international tournament in Hastings that no one thought. They said, wait a minute, a 22-year-old kid from Massachusetts, he has no chance whatsoever. He won the tournament. He surprised everybody, astounded everybody by winning this international tournament actually in Hastings, England. And again, he was sent there by the Brooklyn Chess Club. You know, after he got involved with chess in the Boston area, he started actually going to New York and checking out the chess scene in New York. And the Brooklyn Chess Club was notified by the organizers in England saying, we'd like to have a representative from the United States, or several. They had several. He says, can you name somebody that that you would select to send to this tournament? And the Brooklyn Chess Club selected Harry Nelson Pillsbury. So it was 1895 that he did that, and he came back. 2 years later, he played a match with a fellow named Jackson Showalter, and he won the U.S. championship. So he became U.S. champion in 1897 and held it until his death. He died at a young age.
Yeah.
He died actually on June 17th, 1906, at the age of 33. Now, Darren is going to show our viewers a plaque, a stone plaque that was put at his gravesite in Reading, Massachusetts. Now, Harry Nelson, here it is. It says the photo says Harry Nelson Pillsbury. It says his date of birth, December 5th, 1872. His date of death, June 17th, 1906. And then it says, winner of the 1895 Hastings tournament.
Right.
And then also it says U.S. chess champion, 1897 to 1906. The Massachusetts Chess Association had that plaque put in Laurel Hill Cemetery in 2006. In fact, it was right to the 100. It was 100 days to the 100 years to the day of his death that we had the ceremony at the cemetery, and that was a great ceremony that was done back 16 years ago. So, anyways, he was a great player. I don't consider anybody being a serious chess player if they don't know the name Pillsbury. Would you agree that you can't be a serious chess? How can you be a serious chess player and not know the name Harry Nelson Pillsbury?
It's easy to think of the more recent history
Right.
and forget about him, but you would know.
But
and this game is going to be quite impressive. I think people will take notice.
Exactly. We're gonna show our Chess Chat fans a game that Harry Nelson Pillsbury played in 1900 at an international tournament in Paris. Yeah. So, and again, he played a very strong player from Austria. His name was Georg Marko. Georg Marko, who was of Romanian ancestry. His original name was Marcu, M-A-R-C-U, but he changed it to Marko. But he was one of Austria's strongest players back in the previous century. Yeah. So we're gonna show that to our fans, and we might as well start now. Why not? Why don't we start the game that was played? This was played in round 12 of the Paris tournament, 1900. It was played on, as I said, June 8th. I believe, yes, the date was actually, I believe, was June 8th, 1900, round 12. No, I'm sorry, it was played in August. I'm sorry, of that year. Okay, so Pillsbury had white. How did he open the game against Georg Marko?
He played his queen pawn up 2 squares to d4.
Okay.
Classical move.
Right. And by the way, Pillsbury played both d4 and e4. I mean, he wasn't strictly a d4 player. In this tournament, he played both d4 and e4.
Don't they call that being ambidextrous?
Ambidextrous, yeah. Right, yes. Well, he in this game, he plays d4, to which Marko plays d5. He responds to d5. Now, he could have played the knight to f6. That was possible. Let's see. We see that get, yeah, we just saw d5 being played on our screen. Okay, it's Pillsbury's second move. What does he do?
Second move was pawn to c4.
Okay, now, after c4, isn't he offering a pawn here?
This is a queen's gambit.
Okay, that's what it's called, right?
This is the opening.
It's a gambit.
It could go 100 different ways.
Wow. All right, so the choice that Marko has to make is whether he will accept the gambit, he'll take the pawn on c4, or he'll decline it. Marko chose to decline the gambit. There's different ways to decline this gambit, as long as we can protect that pawn. But he chose to do it this way. He played e6. So that was Marko's response, declining the gambit with e6. Okay, we'll see it on our board. Yep, we see it on our screen. Okay, what's Pillsbury's next move?
Third move was knight to c3.
Okay, now he's developing a piece. Now we see knight c3 being played, to which Pillsbury responded with knight f6. He comes out and develops his knight on g8 to f6. Okay. It is now Pillsbury's fourth move. He's got choices here, but what does he do? What does he do on his fourth move?
He played his bishop to g5, pinning the knight to the queen.
Okay, which is good.
It's good.
Pins are good. Are pins are good?
Sure, pins win.
Pins win. Okay. All right. So what Marco does here is he's gonna break that pin by playing his bishop on f8 to e7. Develops the bishop and also looks like he's preparing the castle here by doing that. Okay, right. It's now Pillsbury's fifth move. What's he going to do?
He played e3, so he's made a pawn chain on the dark squares. The bishop has already been moved out, and so it's outside of the pawn chain, and now he can protect the d4 square.
Yes. Okay. All right. Marco now, in response to the e3 castles. Why not? Might as well do it right away. And that's what Marco does. We see it on our screen. Yep. All right. Pillsbury's sixth move. What does he do?
Knight to f3.
Okay. Develops another piece.
Develop a piece. He sees that the pawn on e6 means black's queen bishop can't come out and counterpin.
So this is a problem bishop. We call this a problem bishop. How are we going to get? How is Marco Black going to get this this bishop into play here? That's a problem.
It is. He has a couple choices, and
now we see the problem bishop appear in other openings, like for example,
like the French defense.
The French defense,
sure.
Yeah, prime example. In the French defense, Black is saddled with a bad bishop. Okay, it is Marco's move. Whose move is it?
Number 6.
All
Black.
right, so he's okay. So Marco says, I gotta do something about getting this bishop into play. So he plays b6. b6 vacates the b7 square for the bishop be able to come to b7. All right, Pillsbury's move. Next move, seventh move. What does he do?
He plays bishop to d3.
Right.
Threatening the h7 pawn if he can gang up on it.
Right. And it's better there.
Good developing move.
It is a good developing move. Does it make any sense to put the bishop on e2?
Well, it could.
Yeah, but it's more passive.
It's a little passive.
It's passive.
Right.
But this is a more active placement of the bishop on d3. Right. Okay. So Marco continues with his development. Remember, he played b6 to accommodate this bishop on b7, which he does. Let's see if that move bishop b7. We see it now. Yep, now it's played. All right. It is now Pillsbury's eighth move. What does he do?
Well, there's a threat that Black could take this pawn on c4, and the bishop would have to take back. So instead, White takes the pawn on d5.
Aha. So c takes d5 is Pillsbury's move. Now, Black can take back that pawn on d5. There's at least 3 different ways. Certainly not with the queen. You don't want to lose to take it with the queen and lose the queen. But you have actually both the knight and the bishop and the pawn.
Yep.
So Marco has to make a decision. What's the best way to recapture the pawn on d5? And he chooses to recapture with the e pawn. So he plays he takes it with e takes d5 is his move. Yeah. I mean, that was, and again, that's a playable, nothing wrong with that move, taking with the pawn. Yep. No, it can't be criticized by taking with the pawn. All right, it is now Pillsbury's ninth move. What does he do?
He played his king knight to e5.
Okay. Knight e5.
Got a lot of, it can exert a lot of pressure from there.
Exactly. All right, what is Marco going to do here? Well, it's time to develop more pieces. Remember, there's still pieces undeveloped here. He has to bring into play, so he plays the knight on b8 to d7. Knight bd7 is Marco's move. Okay, Pillsbury, what does he do?
He supports his knight on e5 with the move f4.
Okay.
It weakens this e4 square because a pawn can't attack it.
Right.
But he supports that knight so that if it's exchanged, he'll take back with a pawn and be and
so
kick the other knight. So
he strengthened the support by defending the knight again with f4. It's a good move. Looks like a good move to me. All right. So Marco, in response to f4, counterattacks on the queen side with a pawn push to c5. Okay. So right now he's attacking the pawn on d4, but of course it's adequately defended on the pawn on e3. Yep. which explains why he played f4 to at least have a supporting piece supporting that knight on e5. All right, it is now Pillsbury's 11th move. What does he do?
Pillsbury castled, which
Okay.
is a pretty good move. He brings his rook right into play.
Right.
His king has gotten some safety.
Right.
And you can, if you looked at it, you'd see a lot of open space headed toward the king side.
Uh-huh. Okay, now here is where Marco plays a move that actually analysts have deemed. In fact, you told me that they've deemed this an inaccuracy.
Right.
This next move by Marco is considered. It's not a blunder, but it is a weaker move.
In the position, I saw Hikaru Nakamura play the same move today. So
Oh, really?
it's a move, right? But
really,
in this case, the engine says
this country's top players played it today in
a blitz tournament online. Yeah.
All right. So what Marco did was play c4 and attacks the bishop. Okay. All right. So
the bishop has to protect it, has to escape.
It has to save
it backed up to c2.
And it's not going to go to b1. That would be
right, because that'll block this rook.
Exactly. Right.
And it still exerts the same pressure along that side.
Stay on this diagonal.
Right.
Yeah, the b1 to h7. Yeah, and so Marco's move now. Okay, after bishop c2. Well, Marco realizes he wants to attack on the queen side. He feels his play. He has no play on the king side here. Pillsbury has to play on the king side here. So he said, wait a minute, I got a counterattack. But I have to prepare the counterattack. So he plays a6. This was also criticized by analysts. This is also an inaccuracy?
It is. I don't exactly know every reason why, but you can see these moves, while they're trying to take space, they're taking a long time, one square at a time.
Right. It's slow. It's a slow build-up for a counterattack. Yeah. So on a6. All right, so what does Pillsbury do in response to this? Yeah.
He ignores it, and he brings a queen to f3, so it can be positioned on the king side fairly aggressively.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. All right, so after queen f3, oh, wait, hold it. He played queen f3. All right, well, Marco says, wait a minute. I played this whole thing so I can mount a queenside attack here. So he plays b5. So b5, he's moving that pawn.
Still a little slow.
Slow. It's going to take time. All right. So what is Pillsbury going to do?
Queen to h3.
Oh wait a minute. Well, now I see more pressure now being put on that pawn on h7.
He's got two pieces aiming at it, and only the king and the knight defending it for black.
So this knight has to stay. This knight has to be here to protect here.
Yep.
Okay. So after queen h3. Marco must be getting very nervous now. And says, "Wait a minute, I can't have this pressure on this h7 pawn on h7." So he plays g6, which is actually going to stunt the attack.
So it blunts the bishop, but it is a weakening move on the dark squares around the king.
It does weaken exactly. So how does Pillsbury respond to this move, g6?
It's fairly energetic. Mm-hmm. He pushes his pawn to f5.
Wow.
And I think he's meaning to engage on these pawns, and then the knight on f6 is pressured.
So he's putting out a lot of pressure on the pawn on g6 3 times. Knight, pawn, and bishop, putting pressure on the pawn on g6. So after f5, Marco said, "Hey, I'm doing this stuff on the queen side to counterattack," and he plays b4, attacking the knight on c3. All right. Now, you and I know, if players were to encounter this position at the club or whatever, they would probably retreat the knight. They would say, "Wait." They
might do that.
They'd say, "Wait, maybe I should retreat. Maybe I should save my knight by moving it." But Pillsbury didn't do this.
No.
Yeah, he left his knight right there.
Not at all. In fact, Pillsbury took his f pawn and took the g6 pawn, which renews the pressure on h7. There's a mate threat there.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, because of this, Marco has to make a decision. What does he do after f takes g6? He said, "Wait a minute, no." He said, "I can't have this more additional pressure. So he took that pawn on g6 with the h pawn.
Right.
H takes g6 is what Marco played, okay? And that was his 16th move. All right, Pillsbury's move. What is he going to do here?
Pillsbury played queen to h4,
Ooh.
adding the pressure onto that knight on f6.
Okay. Also, there's lots of pressure. 3 times. We got 3 pieces attacking the knight on f6. Of course, it's defended 3 times.
Yep.
But there's threats. There's also possibility of actually taking here, and he can't take back with the knight because he would lose a piece with bishop take. All right. So Marco has to say, well, how am I going to respond to this? Marco should have realized that he knows he's in trouble here, but he accepts the sacrifice. Right. Pillsbury left that knight there on c3, and Marco took it. He took b takes c3 on the knight on c3, which is a blunder. This is a blunder now.
Right.
All right.
That's a blunder.
Now, how does actually Pillsbury exploit this blunder? How does he continue on his 18th move?
Well, Pillsbury played knight takes knight on d7.
Right.
And this knight that he took was a defender of this knight.
That's
so
right.
He's loosening black's position.
Right. And he takes back here. Now, should he have taken back here?
It seems like no.
No. Because here's the problem. He can't take with the knight, naturally, because if he takes the knight, he will lose this bishop. He'll be forked. The bishop will take the bishop on e7, and the queen and the rook will be forked, and he'll win the exchange. So he takes the knight, but he should have realized this is actually a blunder. He didn't realize
it's a lot of trouble.
A lot of trouble.
If he doesn't take it, then white might have taken the knight.
Right.
With check. So
right.
And just piling up the material.
Okay. But Marco probably says, hey, I'm okay. I got everything defended. I mean, look at, okay, but there is now a threat here. He's threatening now to win this here, right?
Yeah. Which he did by playing rook takes knight.
Yeah, this is the best move of the game, isn't it?
It is, I'd say.
Yeah, rook takes f6.
He is holding his own bishop in reserve to be a piece that lands there last.
Right. Now, Marco's a piece ahead. He better accept the piece ahead. And he cannot take, our chess chat viewers must realize, this bishop cannot take this rook on f6 because Pillsbury would take the bishop
back,
here.
And there's no way
unstoppable checkmate on h8.
Exactly.
So that rook has to stay right where it is on f6. So how does Marco continue after this? Well, he said, wait a minute, I've got to actually try to eliminate these pieces here. He plays a5. That's his move. He does that on move 19. No doubt to bring this rook into play, to put pressure, to eliminate pieces here. He'd love to get rid of the rook and the bishop, which would actually lessen the pressure he has. So how does Pillsbury respond to a5?
He played rook on a to f1 to double his rooks.
Wow. Now there's really pressure, lots of pressure. All right. So now Marco says, okay, I got to come in and try to eliminate these pieces here on f6. So Pillsbury's move. Now comes another great move.
Bishop takes g6.
Okay. And what's the threat after this? What?
The threat is queen to h7 checkmate.
Right here. So he has to take the bishop.
React.
He's forced to take the bishop. So the pawn on f7 takes the bishop on g6. So f takes g6 is Marco's move. All right, Pillsbury's move. What does he do on his 22nd move?
Rook takes rook check.
Okay.
Which is remarkable because he's running low on pieces.
He's low on pieces, right? Exactly. So Marco says, "Wait a minute, I'll just capture the rook with the bishop." Bishop takes f8. That's what Marco does. Pillsbury's move, 23rd move. What does he do?
One more time.
One more
takes with check.
Right. Exactly.
So he's eliminated all the defenders.
All the defenders now are gone. Okay. And he can't move. The only move he has is actually up here, but he can't do this. He can't, move out of check because he's going to get mated, right?
Queen to h8's mate.
Queen h8 is mate. So he must take the rook that's attacking him. He takes king takes f8. Okay. So how does Pillsbury now continue? Remember, he's still a piece down. He's a rook down.
That's the remarkable thing.
He's a full
he
piece
played
down.
Queen to H8 check.
Okay, play. All right. So there's actually the king only has one square to go to. He can't go to E7 because it's controlled by the bishop on G5. So King F7 is Marco's only move, and he plays it right there. Okay. So now it's Pillsbury's 25th move for Pillsbury.
Queen to H7 check.
Okay. King in check. King has to move, and there are only, as I see it, how many squares do we see for this king to move to?
I see 2 squares.
Okay.
3 squares. He could come forward.
Okay. Good. Okay. Let's show our viewers. Let's stay on the board. Let's stay on the board and show our viewers. If Marco had played in response to this King E6, what would Pillsbury do in response to the king moving to E6?
He would take the G pawn.
With the queen.
Yes.
And this would.
That is checkmate.
This is checkmate. So that means he cannot go to E6. All right. So if he can't go to E6, he's in check here. How about if he actually goes? How about if he goes here? How about if he goes?
That is his move.
He did that move. Well, let's play a move he didn't play.
Okay.
Let's say if he'd gone here.
Right.
What if he'd gone there?
Yes.
Why didn't he go there? Why didn't he go there?
Well, Queen to G8 is also checkmate.
Ooh, Queen G8 is checkmate also.
Yes.
All right. So the move I played previously is what he actually played. He moved the king back to F8. Okay. All right. So what did Pillsbury do now?
You know, he may have tried to continue to press to get a checkmate out of it, but he did the simplest thing and took the queen.
Right. And by taking the queen, and by the way, at this point, Marco resigned.
Yes.
Because Marco realized what Pillsbury's threat is not only to play the bishop here check, and the king would only have that one square to go to G8, and it'll be mate with the queen on G7. So that's why Marco resigned in the position. He realized first of all, he's down a queen. He's going to be mate. It's going to be a forced mate in just a couple of moves. Yeah. So this is quite a game.
That is something. I mean, to end up with just a couple of pieces through all of that and just keep taking away the defenders.
Right.
It's pretty impressive. He gave up this knight over here. He gave up 2 rooks for less material.
Right. Yep. Now we should say a little more about Pillsbury, the man, the player. Pillsbury, again, being an extraordinary player, he learned chess at a late age. You know, 16 when he picked up chess. Again, when he was 16 years old. That's a late age to start. At what age did you learn chess?
About 8.
So you learned at a younger age. Would you recommend to our Chess Chat viewers, especially the parents of children, that they should encourage them to take up chess at an early age instead of wait until the teenage age?
We have some kids in our club who are just sieves for the material. They pick it up no time at all.
We should tell our viewers about, we have a 9-year-old kid.
Yeah.
His name is Sean Shu from Lexington. He comes with his sister, Laura, every week to the club. Sean just turned 9 years old. I believe they're twins.
Yeah.
His rating, this kid's rating, Sean's rating, is now, he's now a Class A player. He's a Class A player. He's gone over 1,800. This is extraordinary.
Yeah.
Now, we had at the club a brilliant player, Carissa Yip, who became an international master. She became club champion in 2014 with a perfect score. She was 10 years old. This kid is actually following in her footsteps, actually even doing better. I think actually at that age of 9. But these young kids really are taking the chess, like ducks take the water.
Right.
I mean, it's extraordinary.
So Pillsbury starting as late is really something that he could become U.S. champion.
And a lot of people thought that he would be a contender for the World Championship. Anyways, so we hope the Chess Chat fans enjoy the program that we've presented. We'll see you next time on Chess Chat. We'll be here, so we'll